Jerry gets down on his knees, he leans forward with his forehead, he puts it in the rock, and then she sees him disappear, literally, disappears. Doorways that could be instantaneous to other dimensions placed around this planet. But how many humans go to other humans and tell stories like that because humans are so afraid of ridicule? One of the most fascinating interviews I've ever done was in 2007 with Jerry Wills. He's down in Phoenix. He takes trips to Peru. He's married to a woman, Kathy. They got married back in 1998 in the fall. And one of the things that he most wanted to do, and he wanted his new bride to be with him, he wanted to go down to a place called Amaru Muru, Amuru, and that's where the Aymara Indians live. It's in the southwestern part of Lake Titicaca. Here's Peru, here's the Bolivian border. They share this border, almost right where this is. What is Amaru Muru? It is a solid, red, beautiful rock, gorgeous, and carved in it, think of a rectangle that goes 23 feet up here, 23. Then, when you come down to the ground, here is another door, goes into the rock deeper. It's about 7 feet. A 6'9" man can, with it bowing his head a little, can go in there. But there is no entrance. It's just carved into this red rock, surrounded by this 23-foot rectangle. And it's the Aymara Indians for centuries. They have said...
They made this?
No. The Indians have said this was made by gods to be a two-dimensional, going and coming doorway to where the gods live. Jerry had studied, and he had a guide named Pedro, one of the Aymara Indians, who said on this trip with his bride as a celebration that he would take Jerry and teach him how to get down on his knees, put his forehead in this little, kind of like I've seen a picture, it just looks like the rock goes in like this, like a lens shape. Right. Puts the forehead in there, and the shaman taught him a sound frequency said with symbols. Jerry has shared it with me and has asked me never ever to repeat it. And that if Jerry got his forehead and did this chanting of this frequency just correctly, he would literally disappear and would go to another dimension, the dimension of where the gods live, and hopefully come back.
I was going to ask, can you come back?
So, his wife is 100 feet away. She is watching the entire scene. Jerry gets down on his knees, he leans forward with his forehead, he puts it in the rock. Many, many times he says this frequency. And then she sees him disappear, literally, disappears. And we have, I think, what happens next with Jerry, we can at least share his words. He goes to a white place. It's like a laboratory. It has a hard floor, and a voice comes in, a male voice.
Is he scared when this is happening?
He has no idea what's happened. He was there at the rock, and then it's all white, but his feet are on something he compared to Lexan. He tried to jump on it, and then this male voice comes and starts talking to him. And this is where we have an excerpt.
Well, let's listen.
He said that I was on another world, that it was outside of my universe. So I wanted to understand how that's possible. And he says, well, there are many universes. and you've just passed from yours into ours. All right, so where is this universe? He said, it wouldn't do me any good to even try to explain it to you. I asked him how I'd gotten there. Well, apparently, whoever they are had been very curious about the nature of the universe. They tried to recreate a model of the universe. He was talking about how they were colliding particles, and somehow a spark had occurred, and the spark didn't go away. Instead, it started growing. And as it grew, it started accumulating and creating more of itself on its own. It was quite large, and they had created another universe. They weren't planning on doing this. And it had evolved, and it evolved quite rapidly. I said, well, I don't understand this, because we think the universe is billions and billions of years old. He says, well, where you are, you measure time much differently. Time is different in every universe. And when he was telling me about this, they were really very afraid that it was going to continue growing and it would just overwhelm them, and then what would happen to them? And that what they had discovered is that they were inside of someone else's universe, just like we were inside of theirs. He says it's just layers and layers. There's very little that separates one from the other. And they had learned that life had started to populate throughout that universe.
They had made.
Yeah, they were fascinated by this, curious as can be how this was possible. And this doorway that I had gone through was something that they had put in place. They had these doorways throughout our universe in various places. They had been sending scientists in there to study the universe, because this was a whole new realm of science for them to explore. And when they started discovering life in there, well, they were pretty shocked. Apparently, I'm not the only person who'd ever come through that doorway. And apparently, these doorways go to other places on this planet as well as to other planets. The only thing that I can figure is that moving from one point to another was outside the dynamic of time altogether. That these doorways are instantaneous passageways to other places.
That's fascinating.
Well, and that last statement, doorways that could be instantaneous to other dimensions placed around this planet. And if Good is right at Harvard, he's been speculating this for a couple of decades, that we're not just a universe with a trillion galaxies and that this is it, that there could be an infinite number of galaxies, an infinite number of universes, an infinite number of dimensions. And that part where the voice is telling Jerry that they discovered, the whoever the they is, that their universe has another dimension that is encompassing it, or another universe, and they're encompassing this one, and we could be encompassing another. All of a sudden, you have this idea of those Russian dolls that are all embedded in each other, that this cosmos could be universes inside of each other going on, and suddenly the whole issue of why is it that some people have seen blazing white crosses in their life that have saved them, or somebody is falling off of a cliff and they say it felt like Jello came and lifted them up. There have been the miracles of this planet.
I've had calls on Coast to Coast, Linda, where people are ready to crash to a vehicle and they go right through it.
Yes, or over it.
Or over it.
In abductees. I've heard that so many times, and I have an illustration in my third book, Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 2, where a mother and daughter, and the daughter is the abductee, and they are traveling on, she'd already had interactions since she was a teenager with all kinds of ETs, and they apparently were trying to help her. They were trying to help her survive. And so it would have been counterproductive to the non-humans and their effort to keep her alive from disease if she would die in a car crash. That's the way she analyzed it. So she and her mother are coming and they're entering the intersection, and they both see a car coming at them at the same time.
They're done, right? They're supposed to be done.
And she said it was as if their car rose vertically up and went over the car that should have hit them, came down on the other side, and both the mother and daughter knew that something real had happened.
Yes.
It had saved their lives. But how many humans go to other humans and tell stories like that because humans are so afraid of ridicule from other humans?
And what about the car that almost hit them? What were they thinking?
Were they even conscious, or did they get a blast of white light? Well, this now leads to new work that is being done by a physicist named Thomas Campbell and some people literally at Caltech. It was in February. I spent an entire day with a mathematician at Caltech and a friend of Professor Campbell's. And we were talking about all of this whole issue, are we living in a simulated universe? Because this mathematician that I talked to, they're actually now trying to come up with what are tests that human scientists can do right now or through the rest of this year and maybe next. They have to get collaboration from other large labs internationally to do some of the things they want to do. But they are now, there's so many people that are intent on trying to test this, because whether it is a holographic universe, and a hologram is the projector that is projecting light and creating, Thomas Campbell thinks that we don't even need the holography, that we could have another dimension that is projecting zeros and ones, literally,
right.
Zeros and ones, which would be minuses and pluses, that are programmed, that are already programmed from another dimension.
But who's programming this?
Okay. I asked Professor Campbell, I said, okay, is the projector in another dimension God?
Good question.
And he said, well, if we're in a cosmos that has an infinite number of universes, which dimension would be a top dimension? Where do you get to a point if there are all of these Russian dolls of universes and dimensions? Which would there be any one that would be top? And this is where you then get to this discussion. I myself have always thought there's a divine field that is not matter at all. It's an energy and a frequency.
Obviously something out there.
It produces all the matter worlds that have all of the dimensions, which if you take a chord of music, this helps me think about this. Mm-hmm. And let's say that you go middle C, E, and G.
Hum it for us, Linda.
I can't do a chord for you. Maybe you can.
Maybe I can. I sing.
But if we were in middle C, and Jerry's universe is E, and there's another universe dimension that's F, unless you could produce the exact frequency of the E and the G dimensions or universes, you're never even going to be able to detect. You will not know anything. And they could be that close as frequencies of music